We'll continue muscle tissue. So we're gonna finish muscle tissue in this class today. And then we will have the muscular system in the lab. So the yesterday's lab already have the muscular system, chapter 11. So the one that have lab today, you're gonna also have the muscular system. We're gonna learn the 700 muscle that make up all the muscular system. Okay, do you have question before we start? Before we continue this chapter 10, muscle tissue? No? No. Remember we stopped here last time, right? We talked about how our brains release the neurotransmitter carried by the type of neurons. Anybody still remember what do you call the neurons that go to the effector? What you call the neurons that go to the effectors? No, the neuron, the name of neuron that go to effector. No? Yes, motor neuron. Okay. So there are several types of neurons. We're gonna learn that in chapter 12, 13, and 14 later. The neurons that come from your brain, from the CNS, from the control center to the effector. And remember, one of the effector is muscle, right? Skeletal muscle. The neuron that carry order from your brain to the effector is called the motor neurons. Get it? So does motor neuron carry the order in the form of actually kind of electrical charge? It's called sodium. We will talk about that later. And then at the end of the neuron, there is an area. It's called the end of the axon or axon bulb. On that axon bulb, remember neuron consists of dendrite, cell body, and axon, right? The axon is actually the one that will reach the effector, the muscle. At the end of the axon is called the axon end or axon bulb. It carries a vesicle that has neurotransmitters in it. Okay? And the one that go to your muscle, the skeletal muscle, is a special neurotransmitter. What is the name of the neurotransmitter that goes to your skeletal muscle? What is the name of neurotransmitters that go to your skeletal muscle? We talk there. If you don't know how to say it, just ACH, okay? ACH, acetylcholine. That's the name of the neurotransmitters that carry by the motor neuron to the skeletal muscle. It will be released into area is called the synapse, or sometimes also known as synaptic cleft. Release there, and then on your skeletal muscle cell membrane, what do you call this? The cell membrane of the skeletal muscle? Sarcolemma. There is a receptor. That receptor is actually the channel. The channel for what ions? Yes, sodium channel. When that neurotransmitter, the acetylcholines, attached to the sodium channel, it will open the gate. The sodium will be entering into the skeletal muscle through the T tubules. It will reach the, what do you call, the cytoplasm of the skeletal muscle? Sarcoplasma, reaching to the special reticulum, and the plasmic reticulum is called the one that stores the calcium. SR, sarcoplasmic reticulum. It will open the calcium channel on the SR. The calcium will out from the SR, go to the sarcoplasma, and attach to special proteins in this actin group. What do you call the protein that has calcium channel? No. The other one? Troponin. It's close, yeah. That's okay. It's not exam yet. It's not exam yet. The one that has the binding site for the calcium is called the troponin. Get it? When the calcium binds to the troponin, it will open twist the other one. What is the other one called? Tropomyosin. It will make the binding site on the actin available for the myosin head. And the myosin head will bind that actin. If we have the ATP, then the process will pull the actin into the middle. Okay, that's kind of review what we have last time. Now, we are here last time, right? So this is again the thick filament. What do you call the thick filament? Myosin. And this is the thin filament, which is actin. It also has troponin and tropomyosin in it. Okay, and the myosin has the head, and the head have the attachment in the actin site. It's called the myosin binding site. Okay, and this site, when we are in relaxation, it will be covered by the tropomyosin, so this is not available. Therefore, our muscle are relaxed. It requires calcium to bind to the troponin to open this binding site. Then the head will attach on it. If we have the energy, it will pull the actin into the middle. And what happened with this? What do you call this unit over here? The sarcomere will be shorter, right? Shorter, and the whole muscle will also be shorter and generate the energy. Now, look at this. No, not this. Okay. Alright. Okay, so this is the same thing that we have last time. This is a better drawing. And again, what do you call the neuron that go to the muscle, to the effector? That neuron is motor neuron. That's actually only part of the neuron, which is the axon side, right? And the axon will have what we call the bulb over here, the axon bulb. And in the axon bulb, you have the vesicle containing the neurotransmitter. And special neurotransmitter that carry to your skeletal muscle is called the acetylcholine, ACH, right? Okay, so with the axon, what happened? This neurotransmitter will be released in this area. This is actually muscle cell over here, and this is the end of axon, axon bulb, and this is the area. It's called the synapse. Sometimes it's also known as a synaptic cleft. This is cleft. It's an area between the neurons and the cell. In this case, is muscle. Right? And you see this one. This is the sarcolemma, right? And sarcolemma have the ion channel over here. A lot of ion channel, but for this topic, we only talk about the sodium channel. In this case, the sodium channel has gate on it. So this is gated sodium channel. Are you with me? So when it is released, boom, 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 what happened? It will attach to this channel. So this ACH over here, acetylcholine, will bind to the protein. Remember, channel is actually protein, right? It has a binding site for the acetylcholine. So 2 acetylcholine will be needed to open this channel. Whenever the channel open, what happens? Sodium will be entered because there are so many sodium outside our cell. What do you call that transport? If you still remember, transport across membrane. What do you call that type of transport over here? That require help from the channel in this case. No, it's not active because more sodium outside than inside. it will be gold. That's facilitated diffusion. Facilitated diffusion. What is diffusion? Movement of molecule from higher concentration to lower concentration. Because it has helped facilitation, then this is a type of facilitated diffusion. Get it? Sodium will enter into the muscle cell. And the muscle cell, remember, in a muscle cell it has what? What do you call this? So this is actually the channel over here. The sodium will not enter to the sarcoplasma directly, but it's gonna using this channel, this kind of tunnel. What do you call that tunnel? T-tubule. It's using the T-tubule. It will be deliver that sodium into this. This is actually reticulum, the storage for calcium inside the muscle cell. What do you call this reticulum? Sarcoplasmic reticulum. SR. SR. Sarcoplasmic reticulum. Okay, so the T-tubule will end to the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Look at this again. That's the synapse, and then this is the process when the acetylcholine release bind to the channel. Okay, sodium gated channel. The gate will be open. Sodium enter into the cell using this T-tubule. What? The T-tubule actually end to this SR. Get it? When it is released, the sodium over here, it will open the calcium gated channel in the SR. And then what happened with the calcium? Release from the SR, go to the sarcoplasma. Remember, in the sarcoplasma we have the sarcomere, right? And then this calcium will bind to the troponin. There are two calcium needed. Yes, because there are two binding sites on the troponin for calcium. So two calcium will bind to one troponin. And what happened? It will twist the tropomyosin. Get it? When it is twist the tropomyosin, it will make this dot over here on the actin. What do you call this dot? What is the name? Myosin binding site. Myosin binding site, which is used by this, what do you call this structure?
Head.
Myosin head to bind. What? Boom. Then we require other things over here in order to bind actually. It's not will bind automatically, but we need the energy to make sure that head able to do something and finally bind to the binding site, to the myosin binding site. What type of energy that we use in our body? What do you call the energy? ATP. So it's required ATP. So this one is actually ADP and PI is actually ATP. Right? What does ATP mean? What does ATP stand for? Adenosine 3-phosphate. There are 3 phosphate over here, right, under ATP. When it is released, 1 phosphate release, the ATP become this ADP. What does ADP mean? Adenosine D phosphate. D means 2. And then if you release 1 more from here, from ADP, what it is become? AMP. What is AMP? Adenosine monophosphate. Only carry 1 phosphate. You with me? So phosphate is actually the substance that will be released from whether ATP or ADP to create that energy that we need. So in this case, this is actually ATP. Okay, so this is the whole thing is ATP, which is ADP plus 1P is ATP. This ATP, so we need 1 ATP to bind to the head of the myosin. Whenever the myosin had the ATP on it, then it will be able to bind to the actin, which is on the myosin binding site. That process creates what we call the cross bridge. Boom. This is what we call the cross bridge, which is attachment of myosin head to the actin on the binding site. It's require what? Require one ATP. Without ATP, there is no movement. Get it? Now, after that, the 1P will be released. It's become ADP. When 1-phosphate release, the cross bridge, the head will pull the actin to the middle. So we have like this, right? The actin is actually attached or anchored into the protein in the middle. It's called the middle of the sarcomere. It's called the M-line protein. So you have one myosin over here, another myosin over here, and this is the head. This is the head, and you have, let's say this is actin. I bind it with ATP. I release 1-phosphate. Then what happened? The myosin will pull the actin into the middle. Sometimes it's overlap like this. Are you with me? So what happened with the sarcomere? Become shorter because the actin actually attached to the Z line. It will pull the Z also to the middle. Like that. This will overlap. The sarcomere will be closer, shorter. The whole muscle will be shorter. That's what we call the contraction. Are you with me? Now, when it is like this, you need another ATP in order to release this. Otherwise, your muscle keep contracting like this. Anybody know what do you call the condition when the muscle keep contracting? It's not like spasm. It's called actually the general term is the tetanus or tetany. What? So there are some neurotoxin that causing tetany. It's produced by bacteria. So that make your muscle keep contracting like this. Like people have the what they call the lockjaw. Have you ever heard lockjaw? That's actually caused by that toxin, released by bacteria. What happened with that one is actually lock the muscle, keep contracting. So what we require in order to release this, we require another ATP. So another ATP will bind to the myosin head. When it is binding, what happens? The myosin head will boom, pull down. What we call the detach from the actin. When it is detached from the actin, what happens? The actin will going back to the normal position. So there is actually spring kind of proteins in the Z line that attach the actin. Are you with me? So when the attachment is detached, the actin will boom, just going back to the normal position. Okay? So look at this. So this is when the myosin pull the actin, is causing this muscle to be like this. So this is what we call the contraction. This muscle is actually what? Shorter. And what do you call this over here? Let's say this is bone, and there is a connective tissue that connect muscle to the bone. Tendon. This is another tendon. Are you with me? So it will contract, make the muscle shorter. Yeah. So, how about relaxation? Again, relaxation is start when the calcium is not needed anymore. It will be return it back to the SR. So if you don't have calcium over here, what happened? The troponin will not binding the calcium. The tropomyosin will going back to cover the binding site. The myosin head will not bind to it, and then we have a relaxation. And also, I mentioned before, we also require another ATP to detach this before the calcium returning back to the SR. Do you have a question? That's the way our muscle contract and relax. So when there is no contraction, what happened with this ACH, acetylcholine? Acetylcholine will be removed from here. There is a special enzyme that will remove the acetylcholine. The enzyme is called the acetylcholine esterase. It erases the acetylcholine from the synaptic cleft. If you don't have the acetylcholine, then there is no order for contraction. You follow this? That's a relaxation. So calcium return it back to the SR. The acetylcholine will be removed from the synaptic cleft with the acetylcholine esterase. Do you have a question for this one? There are some chemicals, usually during surgery, sometimes the surgeon needs chemical to keep the muscle contracting or to keep the muscle relaxing. So they have some chemical that actually able to remove the acetylcholine from synaptic cleft or even remove the acetylcholine esterase from there. It means that the muscle will keep contracting. So during the surgery, the surgeon sometimes use these two types of chemical. One make the muscle relax, the other one will make the muscle keep contract, tetans. Right? So that's the way actually they playing with our body. So creating chemicals or injecting chemical that will change our body function, whether contracting or relaxing. This is again showing us how the difference between during the muscle relaxation and muscle contraction over here. This is during relaxation. Again, this is just one sarcomere. This border with the Z, the Z disc. In the Z disc we have the protein that actually anchor the actin group over here. The actin and tropomyosin, including the troponin over here. And we have in the middle, we have the M line. And there is also protein over here. It's called the M protein that anchor this myosin. And myosin has myosin head. The actin has myosin binding site. During relaxation, it is covered by the tropomyosin. Got it? Okay. And you see the distance between the Z is like this. So this is the line of the sarcomere. Then what happens if we get the order from the brain to contract? Sodium will enter into the sarcoplasma using the T tubule, go to the SR. SR release the calcium. So this small clear dot is a calcium. Calcium will bind to the troponin, open the binding site, right? And then the myosin head will attach to this. And again, we require ATP for this process to create the bridge. It's called the cross bridge. And then after that, it will pull the actin into the middle. You see that one between M line and the actin over here? There is a space, right? That's relaxation. Look at here. That actually go to the M line. So this actin pull to the middle. And then what happened with the distance between this? The length becomes shorter. So shorter length is mean contraction. Again, this is how our muscle contracts. And again, later, when we have another ATP to come, it will be relaxed. Anybody know why people, when they die, their muscle for about maybe 24 hours is actually contracted? Anybody know what do you call that? Rigor mortis. Anybody know what happened with the rigor mortis? Why that muscle keep contracting when somebody dies? That's the reason why if you see somebody die, like say your family, as soon as possible when they die, make sure you put like maybe their hand, close to the body, or the eyes, close their eyes, because if you wait after that, that muscle will not contracting. Will not follow your order because it keep contracting. The reason is because when your cell die, you will not produce ATP anymore. So there is no ATP that go to the muscle cell to detach that bridge over there, and then the muscle will keep contracting. So when somebody die, maybe he's dancing like this and die, so he's gonna be like this. That's what they call that rigor mortis. Anybody see zombie before? In the movie, what? The real time there is no zombie. What does zombie do? They have rigor mortis. Okay? They usually happening for about maybe 24 hours, 48 hours. After that, the rigor mortis is actually gone because the muscle will be also relaxed by itself. Alright, so that's the process of contraction. And again, the model, the theory is called the sliding filament theory. I already mentioned that, right? So this is called the sliding filament theory because the actin actually slides into the middle, based on the myosin pull the actin to the middle. Okay. Again, this is the step for the muscle contraction. So whenever we have the calcium, let's say we already get the order from the brain, then the calcium release into the sarcoplasma will be attaching to the troponin, okay, now the top over there. And then we have the ATP. The ATP will bind to the myosin head, causing the myosin head to attach to the binding site. And that process is called the cross bridge. What? So cross bridge. And then after that, one phosphate will be released, detached from the ATP. Now you have ADP by itself, and then phosphate release. It actually will pull the actin to the middle. Okay? Again, we need at least one ATP for one contraction. The one contraction is called the switch. Okay? So one contraction. Okay? And then in order to detach, we require or we need another ATP to bind to the myosin head. Whenever another ATP binds to myosin head, it will detach the attachment to the actin. It will cause the relaxation. Okay, so this is a relaxation over here. Okay, hydrolyze the ATP and causing that going back to the normal or regular position. Hey, now where the ATP coming from? Where the ATP coming from? Yes, of course, that's the primary one. Any action that we do in our body require ATP, and ATP is made in mitochondria with the process called the cellular respiration. It requires what? There are two substrates needed for cellular respiration. What is the two substrates needed for cellular respiration? That's the reason why you need to eat and you need to breathe. That actually to make ATP. What is the first substrate that's coming from the thing that you eat? Yeah, carbohydrate. What was the monosaccharide of glucose? In the form of glucose. The simplest type of carbohydrate, which is the glucose. Glucose is we eat carbohydrate, right? We eat mostly starch, which is consists of many glucoses. It will be digested in our digestive system. It will be changed into glucose. So million of glucose will be entering into our cell. Right? Some of them will enter into the muscle cell. Glucose. Okay? What is the second substrate needed? Oxygen. The oxygen coming from our respiration, carried into the muscle cell. Now, it's carried by hemoglobin, right? When it is in the blood, it's carried by hemoglobin. But inside the muscle cell, it can also be stored or carried by special protein. It's called the glycogen. Okay, so glycogen is actually carbohydrate. And then last time we mentioned about the myoglobin. What? So myoglobin is the one that stores the oxygen. Glycogen is actually storage for glucose. Okay? So glucose that enter into our muscle cell maybe is not used right away. It will be stored as a glycogen. The one that coming from the blood is glucose. We can use it, and if we need more, we can convert it from glycogen. So there is a storage of glucose in our muscle. It's called the glycogen, and both of them become glucose that available for glycolysis. Now, that's the normal process. But basically, in our muscle cell, during our relaxation, our muscle cell actually store a little bit ATP. So we have some ATP available in muscle cell, even though we don't use it yet. That's available ATP. And this available ATP, some of them will be stored in another type of chemical. It's called the creatine phosphate. So in our muscle cell, we have available ATP, and we also have creatine phosphate. Which is, this is gonna be the first ATP will be used for the first contraction. Are you with me? So it's not coming from the glycolysis, or it's not coming from the cellular revolution yet, but it is coming from any ATP and creatine phosphate available in the muscle cell. This is the reason there are some athletes that actually taking, Walmart sell it. What is that? Creatine phosphate. It's actually make the ATP available right away for the muscle cell to contract. But this ATP, available ATP in the sarcoplasma and also in the creatine phosphate, that's going to be also released as ATP over here, is available only maybe for 10 seconds. And when you start contraction, within 10 seconds, they're gone. They're done. But it is good for some people that perform action for competition that require only 5 second, 10 second action. What do you call that activity? So when there is a competition, maybe in the Olympic or whatever, they run very fast. Maybe in 10 seconds, they already reached 100 meters. What do you call that? Sprinter, right? So maybe it's good for sprinter over there. Because it's available right away. They don't have to make it from the cellular respiration or maybe glycolysis over here. But for us, if we have continuous contraction, that 10 second, 5 second is not enough. It's gone. So what is the next ATP will be available from this? From the glucose that we have, which is using glycolysis. But glycolysis only produces 2 ATP in one glucose, which is really few. Within 20 seconds, it's gone also. Are you with me? It will be gone. So what is going to be the primary source for longer action? It's going to be coming from this process. What do you call this process? Cellular respiration, which is done in the mitochondria and require the glucose and oxygen for this process. Every glucose with 6 oxygen will create 38 ATP. So it's a lot. So we have that process over and over and over. Then we have actually trillion of ATP available for our action. For many athletes, it is going to be source of the ATP for their action. Maybe sprinter only need this and this, But if you have longer activity, then you need or require this ATP from cellular respiration in order to provide you with the energy. You follow this? Now what happens? Let's say you are an athlete. You perform the action. Long-term action. What happens with your breathing? What happens to your breathing? Become faster or shorter or longer or faster and shorter? What happens when your breathing is shorter? You think it's gonna be more oxygen enter or less oxygen enter actually? It's gonna be less. Do you with me? Okay, so when the oxygen entering into the cell is less and less and less and less, finally it's not enough for this. Okay? So the oxygen that enter into your body from respiration then will not go to your skeletal muscle. It will go to the organs that need oxygen more. There are two main organs that never stop. There are two main organs in our body that never stop doing the action. These two organs need oxygen the most. Okay? When you start gasping, the oxygen will only deliver into these two organs. Anybody know what is the two organs that always your lung is not. Lung is brain. Yeah, your brain and the heart. This is the reason why if you don't get enough oxygen to your brain, what happened with you? What do you call that? Okay, before you dead, you have a specific term for that one. People that do not get enough oxygen to the brain, what do you call that condition? Anybody know? Usually, if they have this kind of the sign is called, sometimes you see on the like billboard on the road is a FAS, fast. What is that? What is fast stand for? Yes. So when the oxygen is not enough to the brain, it will cause the stroke. But there is a sign and symptom of the stroke, which is FAS. Facial, fast. Remember fast? What is that fast stand for? Facial. The fast may be a little bit, it's weird. And then what is A? Here, ask them to lift their arm. If they cannot, something happen. And then what is S? Speech. Ask them to just tell what your name. If they cannot say it, difficult to say it, that's the sign. What is T? The last one. T. Call that, which is time. It is time to call that 911. You cannot really, help them by yourself. So what is FAS stand for? Face, arm, speech, and time to call, which is a sign for stroke. Okay, so the brain needs oxygen. Without oxygen, first you're gonna have that stroke, and you die. And then the heart. The heart also the other organ that require a lot of oxygen. So when you start gasping, the oxygen will go to your heart and to the brain only. The rest of your body will not receive oxygen, including your muscle, skeletal muscle. Even though you really want to do exercise continuously, it will stop by itself because no more oxygen. Okay? Now, what happens if your heart does not get oxygen? What do you call that condition? Heart attack. Usually you have the sign first. Maybe you have this pain on the left side of your body. What? The arm, under the arm, the left arm. And then you have pain on your chest on the left side. What do you call that? There's a special term for that. Yeah, what is this? What is the terminology for chest pain? Angina pectoralis. What? And then after that, if you don't really care about this condition, you have the heart attack. And you die. And you die. At the end you die. Alright. So now what happened with your muscle? You want to continue exercise, but there is no oxygen. Your muscle still can perform what we call the fermentation. So your muscle able to do or produce ATP without oxygen, which is this over here. You see this one? ATP is produced without oxygen. There is no oxygen enter into this process. This is glycolysis. In the term of the muscle cell, it's called fermentation. But the fermentation produces this, lactic acid. And lactic acid will be, kind of increase in your blood and causing your muscle actually to be stopping movement or action. And there is special term for that one. Anybody know what is special term for that one? When your muscle actually stop muscle fatigue. You follow this, right? So your muscle will not able to contract anymore because of this condition. It's called the muscle fatigue, right? So that's, again, the ATP that is available for the muscle. Kylie, what happens if you continuously exercise and then there is no oxygen coming to your skeletal muscle? What your skeletal muscle will do? Don't talk, okay? So please, if you want to talk, you can go outside, okay? So this class is for learning. Okay, Josie? Alright, now, this is what ATP is actually required. We have ATP available plus creatine phosphate. This is the one that we're gonna use first. And it's only available for 5 seconds, 10 seconds. It's gone. And then after that, we use the glycolysis and then the cellular respiration. This is the most abundant ATP available. But if we continue to perform action, our muscle cell will not get the oxygen. But we still be able to perform this fermentation, glycolysis, but it will produce the lactic acid, and the lactic acid causing the muscle fatigue. Therefore, our muscle will not contract anymore. That's fatigue. This is actually is for us. This is the mechanism that make us survive. Otherwise, our muscle cell will be destroyed, right? If we continue that contraction. Okay. Alright, now this is how the muscle contract and the type of muscle contraction. Again, you have the muscle, right? There's a two bone. Right? Remember, this is joint. Joint is connection between bone to bone, right? And then the connective tissue that attached to the bone from muscle is called what? Tendon. You see there are two tendons, right? One tendon is here, one tendon is on the other bone. Now my question is, which bone is moving? This one, the radius and ulna, right? So you see the tendon that attached to the moving bone is called the insertion. Yeah? There's a special term for that one. The tendons that attach to the moving bone is called the insertion. The tendon that attached to the bone that stay is not moving is called the origin. Yeah? You have two tendons actually in one muscle. Origin and insertion. You with me? And the muscle itself over here, because it looks like belly. You know, when you eat more, it's your belly, big belly. This muscle is called belly. You get it? So muscle has belly, insertion, and origin. Are you with me? Now, this muscle, when it is contract, become more belly over there. Okay? Become shorter. This look like a big belly. It will move the bone. Get it? Now there are two types of muscle contraction. Okay? The first one is called the isotonic. You see that one? Isotonic contraction. And the second one is called the isometric contraction. Are you with me? Now what is the difference? The isotonic contraction is when the muscle contract, it moves the object or it moves your body. Right? So like this one. That's a isotonic. This is also isotonic. Are you with me? Now, look at this. What is the difference between this isotonic and this isotonic? Look at the muscle over there. The muscle is actually shorter, but still move the object. If they're doing like that, it's called the concentric isotonic contraction. Are you with me? Now look over there. The muscle actually become longer, but it's still contract. It's still contracting actually. Because what? Because you have something over here that make the muscle contract. If the muscle is not contract, it will be loose. It's gone. Right? So this contraction over here is called the isotonic eccentric contraction. This is still isotonic. Both of them isotonic. This is move and the muscle become shorter. This is move the object, the muscle is longer. Extend. It is consent. Shorter. Okay? That's isotonic. Now how about this one? This is isometric. The object is stay. So when the object stay and you do like this, what happens? Your muscle still contract, right? But there is no movement at all. That contraction over here is called the isometric. We have this a lot in our back. You know our back, your muscle on the back, they actually keep contracting, but they keep contracting in alternate way. Some muscle keep contract and then the other one relax, and then when the other one contract, the other one will relax. So actually, your body keep standing like this because what? Because your muscle on the back especially keep contracting. If not, what happen? You just like snake or like a worm, okay? You just fall down because you need your muscle in order to make your body stand like this. And that muscle, you don't move, right? I don't move like this. Do you think my muscle is not contracting over here? It is contracting. It's keep my body in that position. Are you with me? That contraction over here without moving our body is called what? Isometric. Are you with me? So that's the type of muscle contractions. This is the curve of muscle. This is one muscle contraction. If you see this one, when it is contracted, again, it's going to be sliding. This is the actin sliding into the middle. And then this is kind of normal, and this is during you stretch your muscles. The filament, the actin will be far away from the middle side. This is one muscle contraction. It's called the twitch. And twitch usually will not give you any meaningful contraction. Like sometimes your eyes sometimes twitching, right? Did your eyes twitch sometimes? This give you any meaningful? No, it's just twitch. In order to keep there is a meaningful contraction, then there have to be more than just than one twitch. So it's going to be other contraction will be here. Other contraction will be here. In order to make meaningful contraction. When I close my eyes like this over here, this is actually a lot of twitch that happening together at the same time. Just only one twitch is nothing. Sometimes your muscle over here twitching also. Twitching not give you anything, but twitch is mean actually there is one muscle contraction. Are you with me? So this is when we measure the muscle contraction, it will give you this curve on the equipment that we use. So this is a muscle twitch. So there are several stage over here. So this is the latent stage, and then this contraction, and then after that the relaxation period. So the latent period, contract, this is when the muscle contract and relax. So this is one twitch, and usually taking about 100 seconds to finish one twitch. Now, in order to give meaningful contraction, that the another twitch had to be coming before the first twitch relax. Okay, before the first twitch relax, then we have to apply another twitch over here, another contraction. And then before the second one finish, we have to apply another twitch, another twitch, another twitch. Finally, it will give us the smooth, meaningful contraction. But it's gonna be consist of maybe thousand of twitch. Are you with me? That's what we call the wave summation. So we're adding our muscle contract at the same time before the first and second coming, third, and etc. It gives us the meaningful contraction. So this is what we call the contraction over here, the tetanus, which is muscle keep contracting, and finally, whatever time we use, then the muscle will be relaxed because we're able to control our skeletal muscle contraction. Right? We can contract this for maybe 20 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever we do, but that's we actually putting that what we call the summation, wave summation. Okay. Okay, this is marathon. So last time we mentioned about the white fibers, white meat. There is a pink meat, and there is also red meat. Okay, there are also three types of muscle in everybody. Everybody have three different type of muscle. Whether red meat, okay, white meat, or pink meat. Okay? So the white meat actually has less myoglobin. Has less myoglobin. The red meat will have more myoglobin. And remember, globin, they're actually proteins that carry oxygen. The more oxygen, the red the color gonna be. So you can actually, doctor can actually check your blood whether good or not just based on the color. If your blood is really bright color red, it means that your blood is good because a lot of hemoglobin. The same thing with the meat, with the muscle. Muscle actually meat, right? The more myoglobin, the redder gonna be. The less myoglobin, the whiter gonna be. Right? So there are three classes of meat based on the myoglobin: white, pink, and the red. Okay. Now, which one do you think gonna give you the strength for a long action? The white or the red? Compare chicken and buffalo to make it easy. Chicken and buffalo. Which one do you think will have a stronger, longer working action? Buffalo. What? So buffalo will have more red meat. But they are slow. They are slow, but they are strong. Are you with me? Now how about chicken? Chicken, they are very active. Okay? But they will not have the endurance, right? Doing that for a long time. Right? So people also is the same thing. Your action is actually will give the different ratio of white, pink, and red meat in your body. Are you with me? So people that have bodybuilder, for example, which type of meat they will have more? Bodybuilder. They are strong, they have endurance, it's gonna be more red. Sprinter, what do you think their muscle mostly gonna be? White. Are you with me? So you yourself individually actually have different ratio of white, red, and not yellow. White, red, and pink. Meat. Eh? So people that lazy, for example, or the one that active, they're gonna have that different ratio of meat or their muscle. Are you with me? Eh? So that's how so this sprinter over here, they mostly have white type of meat. But people that have strong, big muscle, mostly they have see this one over here? They have red meat. Atrophy. What does atrophy mean? When you are older, you will have this one. Believe me. People that really old, they never use their muscle. What happened with their muscle? Smaller, shrink. Do you think their muscle cell gone? No, everybody have the same number of muscle actually in their body. If you have 1 trillion, I have 1 trillion muscle. The bodybuilder also have 1 trillion muscle. Are you with me? What is make different? The proteins. Proteins actually make the muscle. The more protein, the bigger the muscle, the size, not the number of muscle. So when you don't use it, then what happens? The muscle become smaller, not gone, but it's just smaller, less proteins on their muscle. That's what we call the muscle atrophy. How about the other one? When you use a lot of muscle, for example, you build that muscle, then you have a bigger muscle than normal. It's called that hypertrophy. So there is a muscle hypertrophy and muscle atrophy. Do you have questions for this? We done with skeletal muscle. We go a little bit to the cardiac muscle. It's kind of similar with the skeletal muscle, but the cardiac muscle is shorter, only have 1 nucleus per cell. Right? It also has border, because it's shorter, it has a border between muscle. It's called this over here, intercalated disc. In the intercalated disc, they have hole. It's called the gap junction. What is the gap junction? Over here. So the cytoplasm of the cell is actually able to move from one cell to another cell. It means that the electricity can also move from one cell to another cell. That's the reason why the cardiac muscle keep contracting from one cell to another cell. They can release that electricity using this gap junction. Okay, and again the same. They're gonna have sarcomere. What? Sarcomere with actin and myosin. You follow that? So when you contract, it will be shorter. But they have gap junction that can release content from one cell to another cell. They usually branching. So usually they are branching cell because the shape is like this, so it's gonna be okay. It is a shape that will give the shape of that organs, the heart. Okay, that's the cardiac muscle. Now, how about the smooth muscle? The smooth muscle, it has shape like spindle, very short, 1 nucleus per cell. And there are 2 types of smooth muscle actually. The first one is, this is usually present in the wall of the hollow organs. Okay, so this actually only have maybe 1 motor unit over here. The motor neuron can give the order into thousands of muscle at the same time. Get it? Because the action is just the same. Contraction of the hollow organs, the wall of the organ, maybe your blood vessel, your GI tract, respiratory tract. It just contraction is actually just release or move one substance to another place. So just okay. So the same. Therefore, it does not require a lot of motor neuron. Get it? But the other one over here, it has multi motor neuron. Okay, 1 motor neuron maybe only go to maybe 20 smooth muscle. Example is in the iris. Iris is the smooth muscle that control our pupil. This is a type of this multi-unit. So this is single unit smooth muscle. This is multi-unit smooth muscle. Okay? When it is contract, it's a little bit different. So remember, in the skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle, it's going to be shorter like this, right? But this one, because the shape is a spindle, when it is contracting, it's actually twisting. Twist like this, twist, and then it can be relaxed again. Okay, so it's twisting instead of become shorting. It's going to be the same. The muscle will be shortened also, but it's instead of moving, sliding, it is twisted. Right? So that's the contraction of small muscles. And we mentioned about motor unit. Motor unit means the motor neuron that go to the muscle. Right? So usually one motor neuron can release neurotransmitter into many muscle, maybe 1,000, 20, 100. Okay, that's one motor unit that release the neurotransmitter to this group of muscle is called one motor unit. So this is called the motor unit. Right? So, like for example, here over here, right? We can move into many directions, right? So usually we have more motor unit over here compared to motor unit that go to this back muscle. Because what? It's very limited contraction that we can do. We don't need a lot of, order. So over here, we have a lot of movement. It means that we have more motor unit here compared to just on the back muscle. You follow this, okay? So one motor unit will give neurotransmitter to the group of muscle. The more action that you can do, the more motor units will go to that place. Alright, I think we're done for this chapter 10. And again, chapter 11 will be in the lab today. So if you have your assignments,